This is our news, the weekend edition, and on the broadcast tonight, the Bahamas National Trust pushes for stiffer penalties for poachers. Plus, police investigating a traffic fatality on Eleuthera, and one union leader expresses concern for workers at Sandilands.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Good evening, I'm Andrew Knowles, and thanks so much for joining us. The Bahamas National Trust is looking at taking a more aggressive approach towards poaching in Bahamian waters, a vexing issue that they say is damaging the Bahamian marine ecosystem. With more, our Giorgio Bain has this report.
Executive Director of the Bahamas National Trust, Eric Carey, said the trust will be stepping up its efforts with its conservation campaign by becoming more involved in the recommendation and decision-making process with the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources. Carey said the trust completely supports Minister of Agriculture Michael Pintard, who called for stiffer penalties for poachers and called for their vessels to be sunk if caught in Bahamian waters.
Sink the boats. Definitely. The minister announced recently that they will be sinking all of the boats that are captured. That's a great idea, and we support that, because otherwise the boats get recycled and they're back out there in the illegal fishing business in no time. So sink the boats as well.
Officials of the National Trust have made several recommendations to the government on how to preserve the marine ecosystem, including banning exported conch in the not-too-distant future.
We've recommended several things to government, including banning exports. About 600,000 pounds are exported annually. We recommend that they immediately ban exports. We've also recommended things like landing conch in the shell, because the only way you can tell if a conch is mature is if you see it in the shell. Once you take it out, you don't know if that's a big conch that came from a shell that was still immature. We've also recommended that, in addition to landing in the shell, that the shell has to have a thickness of about 15 millimeters, which is about the width of a penny. It's a Bahamian penny.
Carey said the recommendations also include banning the use of compressors, but at the end of the day, the biggest worry for Bahamian fishermen and the trust alike are poachers. He is calling for better policing of fishing hotspots and strict enforcement of the country's laws.
We have to get poaching under control. That's the biggest problem that Bahamian fishermen have, is that we tell them you can't fish grouper, or you have to restrict conch or restrict lobs in the season, and the Dominicanos are out there in their mind unabated. So in addition to all these measures, we have to get a better handle on poaching, or else all of the efforts that we're doing are probably going to be in vain.
Carey said the trust is also in need of more volunteers to police national parks that have become the fishing ground for bold poachers. Reporting for our News Weekend Edition, I'm Giorgio Bain.
All right, thanks a lot, Giorgio. Well, one man is dead, the victim of a traffic fatality which took place on Eleuthera early yesterday morning. Police say the male driver, along with a female passenger, were the occupants of a 2007 Nissan Note. They were traveling on Queens Highway in the area of the airport shortly after 5 a.m. when the driver reportedly lost control and collided into a tree. The male succumbed to his injuries on the scene. As for the female passenger, well, she received minor injuries and was treated at the local clinic and later discharged. Now, officers from the traffic department are on Eleuthera assisting with this investigation. Meantime, 6 crew members of a mail boat were arrested yesterday following the discovery of a large quantity of dangerous drugs and a firearm on board. Police, acting on information, searched the mail boat at Potter's Key Dock shortly before 8 last night. That's when they discovered 2 taped boxes containing 6 packages of suspected marijuana and a Smith & Wesson pistol, along with a magazine with 11 live rounds of 9mm ammunition. The estimated weight of the drugs is 30 pounds. The 5 men and 1 woman were subsequently taken into custody. Well, in other news, staff morale at Sandilands Rehabilitation Center is low. That's coming from BPSU President Kingsley Ferguson, who said his members have a long list of concerns. Our Julian Gray tells us more.
Bahamas Public Service Union President Kingsley Ferguson is advocating for more security at Sandilands Rehabilitation Center, as he says his members are being hurt by patient attacks.
There needs to be an officer placed on the various wards to assist the porters and the auxiliary nurses in the event that they have to restrain an individual. Persons at that institution, they are injuring staff members. Staff members, a number of them have gone home and been on industrial leave as a result of attacks from patients. And so in order to restrain those individuals, we need security personnel on every ward in Sandilands.
While Ferguson did not give an account of how many members would have been hurt over the years, he said dealing with the challenges on the wards at the facility will take people with a specific set of skills.
This is something, in my view, that cannot be done by private security firms. It has to be done by persons who would have been working at the institution for some period of time, who would have been properly trained in particular procedures as it relates to subduing particular individuals.
Ferguson said that security for the grounds of the facility is also a concern, one that resurfaced last year after 2 people were gunned down on property. Since that double murder, Ferguson said he has seen a shift in security procedures.
I would have seen private security officers engaged at the gate. The myriad of concerns that we would have had at Sandilands, we wouldn't have gotten a response to any of those items.
Ending the list of concerns for Ferguson was the low staff complement at the facility. He said he had a meeting with PHA executives who said they did hire new staff. However, the union president said they are not hiring staff fast enough, leaving the existing staff frustrated.
While they may have hired a couple of persons, the staff complement continues to diminish. And so I believe that there needs to be some assessment of the managerial level to determine what is happening and why persons are leaving these organizations, because it's putting a strain on the very small amount of persons that are left. And so it's lowering staff morale.
All of these concerns, he said, have been submitted to the Public Service Minister. This as he called on all stakeholders to meet with union representatives to get all matters resolved. Reporting for Our News Weekend, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks a lot, Jillian. We will take our first break here, but still ahead tonight. Is the country too heavily reliant on tourism to create jobs? A former state minister weighs in. That story and more when Our News, the Weekend Edition, returns.